The building is paid for by a gift in the will of Mary Kleinhans and her husband, who was a very successful businessman and left $1 million for the construction of a building to be enjoyed by all the citizens of Buffalo for the enjoyment of music. The hall is the product of Eliel and Eero Saarinen, architects from Michigan, who won a competition that they were encouraged to enter in 1939 for the design of this hall. It wasn't built for any particular orchestra or anything else of the kind. It was for all kinds of music. And that is demonstrated in what you see. The part in the foreground is the chamber music hall, which is known as the Mary Seton Room. And then behind it, you see the very large mass, which is the main auditorium that is 3 times the size of the Mary Seton Room. The building is symmetrical along this axis. If you draw a line all the way through it, right through that door, you will see that the side on the left and the side on the right are identical. We're looking at the south side of the building. As I said earlier, this is one of 2 identical elevations, and the composition of the building and its function are very clearly expressed in this view. We see the smaller chamber music hall on the left, the connecting link with the glass and the doors, and then the large auditorium mass on the right. The thing that's interesting about this composition, I think, is it illustrates Saarinen's mastery of scale, in that he was confronted with a problem of how to relate this very large mass of the auditorium to the human being. He didn't have at his disposal any of the typical options that architects use, such as windows, other kinds of openings to break down the mass and the opacity of the auditorium wall. So what he did was he created a series of steps, which these step affair roofs illustrate, to bring that. Those are actually the emergency exits, and what that does is it brings the scale of the large auditorium from this end through a whole series of steps until it gets down to the 1-story elevation which is the scale of a human being. As I mentioned earlier when we were outside, this building is the work of a father and son collaboration, the father being Eliel Saarinen, a Finnish architect who had come to this country in the 20s, and his son Eero, who had been educated in this country as well. One of the things that's so wonderful about the building is that the architecture expresses the collaborative abilities of both the father and the son. And when we were outdoors, we saw certainly some very classical elements in the elevation of the building and as seen in its symmetry. But now that we're in the lobby of the hall, we see a lot of sculptural quality of the mezzanine level in the way it's integrated into this lobby. And you see what I call plasticity. In other words, there are no square corners. The building, the architecture just flows, whether it's the balcony or the stair or any of that. And one space just opens very easily and naturally into another, which we'll take a look at in a moment. To our left is the Mary Seton Room, which I had said earlier is the chamber music hall for the complex. It seats a little more than 900 people. so that it's for more intimate events than large symphony concerts or very spectacular kinds of events. And this hall is separated from the lobby, which we're in, by these very large doors, which there are actually two sets of doors. There's the smaller doors, which are doors within doors, and then there are the large doors that go full height from the floor to the ceiling. The large doors are open unless there is a concert, so that the spaces flow from one to another very naturally. So let's go into the Mary Seton room and see what it looks like. They're setting up for a concert tonight, so you're kind of in luck, so you get to see the antics of that. So this hall has a flat floor, as opposed to the main auditorium, which we'll see has a sloping floor. And the value of the flat floor is that it gives the hall a great deal of flexibility. It can be used for dinners, it can be used for chamber music, it can be used for dancing, exhibitions, all kinds of things. The acoustics in the hall are seen in the form, such as the way the ceiling is stepped, as well as the wall surfaces, which are wood. And in some areas, they're perforated to absorb sound. In other areas, they are simply flush to add to the reverberation of the hall. This is the perforated, and then this is the plain. The wood in this room is known as zebra wood, and it's clearly identifiable by the strong stripe pattern that is inherent in the grain of the wood. And on the stage, it's rosewood. Charles Eames, who was really a very famous designer all through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, even into the early 70s. And he designed much of the furniture for the hall, which some of the primary pieces are these very large sofas, which are available in the lobby. There are 5 of them. They're the only 5 in the world. The interesting thing about them is that in the end view, which is here, the shape is a parabola, which is the same shape as the plan of the Mary Seton room and the same shape as the plan of the main auditorium. So we see this consistency over and over and over again throughout the hall.